How's everyone doing? Okay. At this point, I don't need AI. I need a masseuse. All right. Rahul, Vivek, up.
Sure.
All right. The last panel for the alumni meet. Very excited. Thank you for having the patience to stay along the whole day and listen to this. But more importantly, I want to thank both the panelists here who took the time to come all the way from their busy schedules. One from Delhi, Rahul, thank you very much, who came 2 days earlier. Vivek was just a flight in and flight out. I know he's running a very interesting startup now. Thank you. He's coming from Bombay. Both of them have just volunteered to come and do this for no cost. Just want to thank that. Thank you. Thank you. So a little bit about Rahul here. Rahul, I met recently. Very exciting fund that he is managing. Is a managing partner at SenseAI Ventures, where he manages a 200 crore fund focused on early stage AI startups. One of the few AI focused funds in India. But his AI innovation stems from experience with NLP applications on Japanese data and his successful early investments in pioneering AI startups like Kioskin, Skit.ai, and Flowworks.ai. He's a three-time founder. Rahul established Nimbus in EdTech, Metrics Information in digital content, and Contentscape in the KPO sector. His international experience runs more than a decade in Japan and the US, where he developed big data intelligent platforms adopted by major corporations, including Toyota, Honda, and Canon. An MBA graduate from Narsimonji, Rahul combines his technical expertise with business acumen for promising AI ventures. Welcome, Rahul.
Okay. Thank you, Prasad.
And I have a slightly shorter one for my friend here, Vivek. Vivek, I met about a year back when we started discussing this very exciting venture that he's running. One of our latest portfolios at Anthill, a company called Broadway, which is a Gen Z mall concept, a mall within a mall, but for the youngsters, so it's all the Instagrammable brands that you cannot try or anywhere else, that you can go to his store and try them out. Vivek has more than 15 years of experience. He's incubated and run multiple ventures, such as Hometown, India's leading home retail business, to building an AI-led consumer data stack for the Future Group, which was the largest retail group in India. And he's currently a founder of Broadway, which is basically a new age retail business, content to commerce revolution. Vivek did his graduation from Stephen School of Business and at Ann Arbor, Michigan. Okay. Thank you, Vivek. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Prasad.
We have a pretty exciting session today. The way it's going to work is that I'm going to pose a question out there. All right. I'm going to pose a question out there. All of you will poll, okay, and tell us what you think of it, and then we will put it into discussion. So that we also want to know how you think about what India is going to be like in 2030, right? Okay. The first one, going up here. AI, is it a friend or a foe? Okay. Only problem with this question is that I already decided for it because the scan code didn't work. But I just wanted you to raise your hands. Is it a friend? How many for the friend? Is AI a friend? Wow. Okay. All of you really believe in this. Okay. Let me ask you, Rahul. What do you think? And, I've listened to many topics on this one, and everybody thinks that their AI is probably the best one, right? Different schools of thought. What do you think about?
So, of course, given where I put my money, which is into AI startups, I obviously think of it as a friend, right? Um, I'm just going to take the other side of the argument and make you see that point. Hello.
Yeah.
What, what I think about it, right? So, Jeffrey Hinton, who's one of the pioneers of AI, right? Fathers of AI. He has a very opposing point of view that it is dangerous. It can, super AI, super AGI, all of these pieces, and there've been lots of discussions around this. I'm sure all of you've read something about how AI can become dangerous. But the counterpoint is by another luminary of the AI world, which is Jan LeCun, and his view is that we always have agency. We build these systems. These systems don't come up on their own. And I think that's a very important distinction. The second thing I'd just say is these fears are not based on where we are from a technology perspective. The technology is far more immature than we give it credit for. We see great demos, right? But if you go look at actually how many systems have gone into production, that's much lower. Any of you who've tried out AI would have figured out that while it works 80% of the times great, there's this whole 20% which still needs to be wrangled before you can, make money out of it. So we are still at the early stages of the maturity curve, and as it matures, obviously it will give far more benefit. But fundamentally, it's a different kind of technology from any other we've seen in history, and that's partly the reason these fears exist, right? I mean, one other way to think about it is what are the jobs threatened, right? Jobs is another key topic around AI. This is the first time in history where white collar jobs are really threatened. Historically, most technology threatened blue collar jobs. It was easy for people in the room having the discussion, who are all white collar, to say that technology is a net benefit. It has proven to be in history, but it's a harder case to make for AI, right? So will it be a big positive, and especially will it lead to job losses or not? Not very clear. But fundamentally, we have no option but to adopt the technology because it is going to change our lives for the better, right? So it is a friend, but we will need to manage its idiosyncrasies, if I may say so.
Vivek?
No, I think, honestly, I think, technology does a couple of functions. It reduces space, it reduces time. And I think with AI, I think there is an opportunity where it is really enhancing human capacity to a large extent. And I think human capacity earlier came through mechanical enhancements. For the first time, I feel that it can enhance the capacity of the brain for every individual. So I feel if really kind of, Rahul already said it, that, you don't have an option but to adopt it. But I think the transformational impact of it, because it can really enhance, the brain capacity, is what is so exciting about it. But I think it is going to change so many things. I was actually yesterday in my kids' school and they were talking something about AI, and I said, actually, education will change, the kind of jobs will change. So many aspects of our life are undergoing a change, and therefore the uncertainty and ambiguity. But I think it's going to be a friend like no other, I feel.
No, and I truly think this because, when the BPO industry started in India, we had a lot of back office jobs that were outsourced to India at that time. And when robotic automation as a technology came in, everybody was scared. Or they said, oh, we're going to lose all the jobs. But that didn't really happen. What happened is we upgraded our skill set and we became KPO companies, right? And I'm sure, when this AI is getting better, there'll be AI-enabled processes that will probably reduce a lot of the task, right? I think this is the way you look at it, and whether you embrace it or not, right? Okay, so that goes to the next question that we have. The next question is about cultural integrity versus globalization. I think this is a very interesting question for a lot of Indians. We always, and this, Vivek, I want to ask you first because we ape the West quite a bit. We want to be in the new trends, the new fashion. Are we losing our original culture and heritage? Or is there a new set of change that's happening that you're seeing of homegrown brands that are culturally have some inclination? Give us an example.
So, see, fundamentally, I think, and if we talk about brands, I think the biggest impact brands have, and I think, is how media is getting consumed. Fundamentally, I think brands were earlier built in an era where television was important, and brands were built through that as a medium. I think then came around that same time came print, and there were certain ways in which brands got built. I think with the mobile technology and social media, I think the context around which brands are getting built is now moved to an individual. A brand is getting built with an individual led conversation, which is very personalized. And that is going to have a significant impact on how brands are built, what are the influences, how consumer behavior evolves with those brands, because every brand is going to get very nuanced to solve a need for a particular consumer. It could be 10 consumers, 100 consumers, millions of consumers. But I think for the first time, consumers will get choices which are so tailor-made to them, and brands catering to those needs will change a lot of the landscape in how consumption really happens. So we feel that brand building is changed. I think Rahul has done a lot of work on content. I think content is really for the first time become center stage where storytelling is building brands. It is not one mass media communication which gets consumed and brands are getting built. There are newer influencers which are not maybe celebrity stars but maybe much smaller in nature where I as an individual can resonate who's helping build brands. So I think and I think maybe from mobile, let's say AI will drive the next set of kind of media consumption, and we see that commerce will change at that point in time. I don't know what that is, but I think as and when, let's say, augmented reality takes shape, maybe the kind of media gets consumed will change, and that era will give rise to a new set of brands maybe. So we'll see how that evolves.
And how many of Broadway's brands, how many brands do you have in one store?
Sure. So just to give context, I think so Broadway really is a platform where we are trying to build a category called experiential commerce. We feel that there are so many digital first T2C brands that are built on social media through a very big content lens, but they never really come about or come alive in a physical storytelling world. So Broadway is really a platform for that. I think every store that we do, we have about 110 to 140 odd brands. They're all brands that are very nuanced, have a very unique story about why they exist in the consumer's
Are
life.
these international brands or homegrown brands?
90%, 95% would be all homegrown brands. They are also very young brands. So I think our motto to them is that we are bringing real life in a physical form to them. So.
Yeah, this is an interesting trend. I don't know whether you've been observing India's consumption around coffee. India is a tea drinking country for many, many generations. And over the last 10 years, coffee consumption has just gone up every year, only on the increasing curve. And we have more homegrown coffee brands now and cafes, more than tea cafes. Right. So this is obviously there is a trend that's coming from a globalization, but it's, I think, creating an Indianness to it. Right. So I want to ask the folks on the thing to scan the code here and vote whether we are diluting our culture or we are in a phase of evolution. Let's see what. Okay. Wow. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. Wow. Wow. Who's the one on dilution? It's called the one out.
Oh, there you go. That goes to two.
Two. Okay. Fantastic. No, this is what I also wanted to do for each of these is because the way we think about this, maybe folks from outside, when you're coming into India for the first times, your perspective is obviously going to be very different as well. And we want to see what you're thinking about how each of these questions feel. This is fantastic. Wow. So you think we are in an evolution phase. Great. Awesome. Okay, let's go to the third question. Population, my favorite question. sometimes when the other countries have a population problem, I only think that India can export a lot of Indians there. Okay, create young population in different parts of the world. Okay, but it is a big concern. According to me, the density of population is just on a increasing curve. Real estate is becoming more and more expensive. Good quality housing and traffic jams, air pollution, all of these will be bigger problems for India to deal with while we are on a huge drive of industrialization. What is your view on it?
So, Prasad, India is 18% of the world population living on 3% of the world landmass. So, I think the population issue is not going away. But I think there are so many other trends linked to this, right? I think life expectancy is going to go up. With that, and how when the life expectancy goes up, how is the middle pool of people going to really support the people who have now kind of crossed their working ages? And with automation coming in, I think whether that will solve the problem of an aging population or not is there to be seen. But I think, and enough said about it. I think India has 25 years. I think if we can really kind of move our per capita GDP beyond $8,000-9,000 is really going to be key for us to survive the aging population. But yeah, I think, but to give you a sense, I think in terms of how India consumes from a population lens, we actually looked at India and divided into 3 or 4 parts, because I think when we sit into a hotel like this, I think India can look very different. I think 8 or 10% of India is actually whom we think is the consuming class of India. They are the people who actually consume all value-added products because their per capita GDP allows them to kind of consume that. So to give you an example, about 1% of India has a per capita GDP of about $35,000. And they really consume how a Singapore would consume in some sense. I think when we look at the next bracket is Poland, and that's about another 3 to 4% of India. And they really consume how people in Poland would consume, whose per capita GDP is equivalent to about $9,000. And then really is a large population around Mexico, which is goes to about another 7-8% of India. And they are the population for whom, credit is built, fintech platforms are getting built, they are learning to consume more and more. But the rest of India, which is the scary part, actually consumes like sub-Saharan Africa, because their per capita GDP is only $1,100. And I think at that point in time, you can only consume commodities. So I think for India's consumption to boom, the GDP to become large enough to support a large population, I think the top 10% of India really need to contribute a lot. And I think that will be an interesting evolution.
Rahul, how will AI solve this problem?
So 2 parts to it, okay? So one side of the coin is, so people produce data, right? We have sensors, we have this, we have that. But really speaking, it's our actions those sensors are capturing. So we produce data. While we may have not kept our ownership of the social media data we produce, but if you look at a lot of the other data, it's still within this country. And that creates an edge for our companies to build AI models, right? When it comes to agriculture, medicine, health, education, we have a huge amount of Indian population with diversity, which gives us an edge. So I think the population piece works as an advantage in the AI arena simply from that perspective. And of course, given the large developer base we have, also from helping build AI solutions in this country. On the other side, and I think this is the best argument for AI. I mean, I'm such a big believer because AI can solve some of our intractable problems of access, right? I mean, we have everybody in this room has the best access you can have to healthcare, to education, to all the things we need, right? And it goes across every service, accounting, legal, all of that. But if you step out of the big cities of India, suddenly the availability just drops. The quality, of course, drops, but availability itself drops. You go far enough, you won't find anything, right? And we can go on talking about AI taking jobs, but actually, if you look at the number of teachers per 100 students in India, way below global averages. Same for doctors, same for... we can just go on naming every category and you'll find we have way less per capita than the appetite that exists in the country. Of course, there's the problem of being able to pay for it. And that's why more services don't appear, because there are not enough people who can pay. But AI brings down that cost, right? And to give you an example, So one of my companies is a company called Kioskin, does skincare using AI. It's a dermatologist in your phone. Uh, Today, they automate 97%. What I mean by that is you take a photo, the AI analyzes it, gives you a diagnosis with your photo, marking up this is a dark spot, pimple mark, X, Y, Z, and here's a treatment plan. Before it's shipped to you, a doctor has to review it because there are RX medicines as a part of that prescription. Today, the doctor changes 3% of those prescriptions. 97% of the work is gone. He can see 30x the number of patients. We've certainly dropped healthcare costs by 30x, right? Not only that, it completely removes the issue of access from a physical perspective.
You increased access.
Yeah.
You
So,
created
and no, it's there in their statistics. So, actually, their top 100 cities or towns for kioskin only contribute 30% of their revenues. 70% of their revenues comes actually from that rest of the population that you're talking about. So that's how access changes. And these guys do significant revenues. They're a less than 5-year-old company. They're doing about $15 million in revenues, which in India is a pretty nice number to have. So if you go ahead and reinvent the wheel using AI, we can suddenly democratize access, bring down the cost, and service a much larger population, which is completely underserviced today.
Totally agree. Okay, let's see what the group thinks about it. Is it an opportunity or overload? Wow, equally divided. People are changing their minds. Okay, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I expected this, but expected more overload than opportunity. Almost equal. Wow. Okay, can live with this answer. All right, let's move. Oh, wow. Hey, hey. Okay, super. Super. Let's go to the next one. Um, the next one is AI. Is it an equalizer or a gatekeeper? This is very interesting. With AI technologies, bridge the gap between rural and urban India in terms of education and health services, which you did address some time back, or will they widen the divide due to the unequal teach and adoption? First, let's give the chance to folks to answer this, and then we will answer this. Is it an equalizer or a gatekeeper? Go on, please vote. Equalizer or gatekeeper? Okay. Interesting. Equalizer. Mhm. Okay. Oh, okay, Rahul, go for it.
So definitely need to speak to the 7 people offline as well. But I just talked about the healthcare example, but it cuts across, and even research points to this. So if you go look at who AI helps the most, it's actually not the top performers, but your bottom performers in corporates. Because it raises the average, right? I mean, person who can't write good English can suddenly get ChatGPT to write a great answer. He may know the content, right? In India, we face this a lot, right? We'll have workers who understand the business, who know what to do, but may not have studied in an English medium school, so their English skills are not up to scratch. But now that divide goes away. They suddenly catch up. Kids, the laggards in a class seem to benefit most from personalized AI-led tutoring, right? So it actually moves the bottom up, and that's why it ends up. And the divide of access. That's another divide which is actually it removes the gatekeepers. So from where I sit, very, very clearly, it pushes equalize. It's a great equalizer. The only part where there is some concern around it being a gatekeeper is more about the fact that there'll be the knowledge about AI is concentrated, right? And that creates pockets of people who become very, very powerful. So that it may, increase, it may have a negative externality from there. But if you look at it from a larger population perspective or India perspective, it is massively an equalizer.
And, I don't know whether you heard about OpenAI's new investment called Opal AI, OPAL, which is a hardware company. And they're coming out the first quarter of next year. They're coming out with a 1960s intercom, which has a dial. And on the dial are different roles of people. One is a chef, the other is a professor, one is an explorer. So you put the dial on professor, pretty much, and you say that please teach math for me, thinking that I am a second grade child. And it will adjust itself and it will teach you math at second grade level. And then you say, I'm at PhD, please teach, and it will teach you at PhD level. Trying to get a good math tutor for my son has been a big problem for the longest time in India, right? And this is amazing. Like the way it interacts with the people is amazing, right? So definitely things like these, I think, will revolutionize how you interact with knowledge, how you interact with data, how you interact with people, right? But is there going to be over-dependence on some of these technologies? And people, as it is, a lot of kids today are not very comfortable with other people around them. So what's going to happen?
I don't know what's going to happen, but I think roles will change. I think, let's say, what companies need to do in terms of what skill set you need to hire will fundamentally change, because some of those tasks will be done by an AI agent or alike. So I think the way you kind of build your teams, the kind of skill sets you need, what capability you need to build will fundamentally undergo change. So I think that's how we think about it, that in terms of how do we kind of... I think one thing we are doing at Broadway is really that of the 70-member team that we have, there are 2 tasks that every team member has to use an agent for. Has to use an agent for some AI capability, because it's a technology which is not mature, but therefore I feel that we will never start adopting it. But only when you adopt it will we be a part of a journey to keep kind of bringing that into our everyday lives. Because I feel that if you don't adopt it, it is going to become a competitive disadvantage to the business. So I think that's a small thing we have done in our business, but I 100% feel it's an equalizer. There is no doubt about it. But I don't know, I would love to know Rahul's comment in terms of how will policy evolve to make it a gatekeeper or not. So.
Okay, that's a great question. But before I get into that, I just wanted to add one other piece, which I think as a global audience, you'll appreciate. So if you look at technology adoption in India historically, and even now software spends, if I look at it just as that single metric, it's much lower than Western markets. The average is much lower. Actually, all of global South, you'll find it drops significantly. And there are 2 parts to this, key reasons. One, of course, is the pricing, right? And if most software is written in the US and thus priced in dollars, we find it harder to afford given our GDPs. But another big hurdle to adoption of technology is simply the fact that we didn't grow up with technology. Like everybody in this room knows how to type, right? We can deal with technology. But if we go to one generation above, like our parents' generation, and definitely if we go 2 generations above, none of them knew how to type, right? AI takes that away. So if imagine the farmer in a village in India, he can speak to his phone because he speaks. He knows how to speak. He doesn't know how to type. AI takes that away, removes that barrier to adoption of technology. So it will also equalize on technology adoption. We are already seeing this with government services in India. which have been technology enabled and voice enabled, you are seeing better adoption of those happening as we speak in India.
Thank you. Next question. So, is the Gen Z getting more stressed or getting smarter with technology?
He's the Gen Z guy.
Okay, let's see what the group has to say about it. Stressed or smart? Sorry?
Yeah, we should have had a third option, which is stressed and smarter.
Yeah, try telling that to your Gen Z kids. It's a you are stressed. You're stressing too much on us. 15, okay. So, Vivek, this question is actually to you because you deal with this age group. What is like your experience with dealing with this age group? What do they like? What do they don't like? How do you keep them engaged?
So I feel that routines are different. The Gen Z people that we work with, and I don't think so. It's a generation, at least who we deal with, is born in a liberalized era, born in a digital first world. It's a world where they have so much of open access to so many things and information and data that they are wired to behave differently. And aspects about work, aspects about home, aspects about family are extremely different in terms of how their thinking is today kind of built. So I think what I feel is that whether they are stressed or smart, I see two differences. I feel that there are certain kind of folks who are really able to kind of become much smarter with using the tools that are available to them and really increase the productivity with it. And there is a group of people who are very stressed because they see their peer group moving ahead and they're not able to adopt as fast. I think technologies will mature to kind of bring them up, but they are stressed because it's a world where everything is served bite size. It's a world where you need instant gratification. When you don't get it, I think because of social media, they have many more highs and lows in their life. I didn't think so. Their life is emotionally very stable today. So I think you have to deal with so many different emotions of this generation that, and you have to adapt to it. I don't think so. We can change it. So,
Yeah.
so that's
No, and I think this is a principal difference that I've also seen during my travels in Europe and India, for example. While you can comment that Europe is very involved with themselves and not looking at the world, they also know how to take some time out and not be on the connectivity all the time, right? India, I think, is facing a huge challenge of FOMO, fear of missing out. Okay, and they always, I don't know whether you've seen, most Indians are always looking at their phone all the time. And they moved business communication from email to WhatsApp, which I think is the killer. Okay, and which is basically they're on WhatsApp all the time trying to see what's happening, what's going on. And they're also spending 2-3 hours on Instagram, which is even worse, I feel, because you are then getting feeds it's playing with your mind on what others are doing, right? And why you're not being able to do that. It's becoming a larger problem, social problem that we have to deal with as we go along the path. And that's why that stress level is high.
No, I don't know about the Gen Zs, but if you have Gen Z kids, you're definitely more stressed.
She's saying, I'm more stressed than they are. Okay, I can't say that. All right. Entertainment. Oh, wow. This is one of my favorite subjects because we invest quite a bit in this. Is it over automated or reimagined? One of the companies that we created within Anthill is now doing celebrity AI avatars. I don't know whether you all know a big film star called Amitabh Bachchan, who has more than 500 million following. We have his body in perpetuity and his voice. Okay. His family took a decision to sign with us, and we are, with his permission or with his family's permission, we actually recreate or create parts of advertisements and movies that can get into this thing. So now we are in discussions with other iconic stars who don't have so much time on hand, but in terms of shooting, because they flooded with brands and stuff like that. But to me, entertainment, I feel, is reimagined completely. But I want to see what the group thinks about it, whether it is over automated or reimagined. Three. Yeah. Good, 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 good. By the way, yesterday, most of you took away those books, Amar Chitra Kada. Hope you enjoyed some of those stories. We are actually creating AI content on some of those stories to recreate small clippings. And we did a test and it came out really well. So that is completely reimagining content. Okay. Rahul, what do you think?
So, if you look at entertainment or take content production, which is the key piece of producing the content, it has always been laborious, right? The cost of producing even a minute of video was very, very high historically. And that obviously leads to less video being created. As you bring down that cost, you should be able to see better video. So today, it is not just to my mind, big brands produce high production value ads, right? And they'll win. You'll know that this is a great brand simply based on production value, even if it is not a great ad. But today, as smaller brands can produce the same quality of video, now it's a fight of whose idea is better. The AI is not building those ideas. The ideas are still humans. Even the execution, fundamentally, it's more like a co-pilot mode, right? You're directing the AI to do certain things, and it thus automates those portions, but the creativity still remains human. So to my mind, AI not only reimagines, it frees us to be far more creative than we have ever historically been.
I totally agree on that one. I think creativity is at a different level to use the AI tools and to be able to generate very good quality content. I think this comes to the last question for the day. Global leader or laggard? EV right now for India in 2030, I think is just scaling up at an enormous opportunity. Every second or third car that people are thinking of is an EV at this point. What do you folks think? Want to ask the team first whether we are stressed. No, sorry. This is a leader or laggard. Leader or laggard. Wrong answers to that question, but okay, almost. So the first one is leader, is what you're thinking? Okay. Yeah. Almost equal, no? Yeah. Okay.
Honestly, I do feel that it'll happen in parts in India. I feel that everywhere where cost per driven mile is important, whether it's in public transport, whether it's in a lot of the taxi services that run, which use every vehicle for 100,000, 200,000 kilometers, their adoption will be very, very fast because just cost per driven mile will be far more efficient. I think everywhere else, which is in households, for example, I'll tell you my example. I have 3 vehicles, but I have one EV vehicle and I cannot dare to buy the second or the third one. Fundamentally, because if I have to go a longer distance, I just don't know if I'll have charging infrastructure. So fundamentally, I think till there is comfort from a charging infrastructure perspective, EV adoption will be limited.
So yeah, it's a chicken and egg story, right? Until you have the charging infrastructure, you don't have the cars. If you don't have the cars, charging doesn't come up. But range anxiety is absolutely a thing. However, as a country, and I speak as a resident of Delhi, where we had AQI which crossed 500 not 2-3 days back. It's slightly better now. But given the pollution levels and given the enormous population we have, as a country, we need to adopt it. So hopefully, I mean, government seems to be going in that direction, seems to be pushing EV policies, manufacturing, all of that. So I don't, we are not leaders today, but hopefully given the right policies and the entrepreneurs behind it, it should be something which we do much, much better on in the future.
No, I think also the rules of certain states in India now, I think including Delhi, for the last mile delivery of goods from Amazon or Swiggy or any of those are going to be almost 30% on EV vehicles, which is, I think, what's going to change this infrastructure or scalability quite often. With that, I think we are at an end. Thank you for listening very patiently. Happy to answer any questions that you have on AI, culture, lifestyle, innovation, comments.
You talked we being in terms of how do we go in future. What about power that we generate? 60-70% of our power comes from burning coal. So is that essentially a clean route to the future?
Is Sindhu here? Okay, it's because she runs a very exciting renewable energy company. But I can tell you that renewable energy is significantly on the rise. India, I think, is investing a lot more money. It's also got preferential rates on renewable energy. One of the companies which is the largest in this space is a company called Greenco, which is from Hyderabad, which received more than $3 billion from GIC, from other parts of the world, to really scale up renewable energy operations. I do think that power generation, and then there's almost this smart grids that are happening between solar, biomass, all of those, which are really going to change the way India looks at it. Any more questions? No questions? Super. Diana? Yeah.
No, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We have actually little presents for you here. I know that you are the total candidates to become SPers. So we're hoping to, now with bird jackets, and you have a jewelry.
Hope both of you will do the 2025 Stanford Executive Program. And we'll see you in our science next time.
And you have your own jacket order.